everyone, it's Garcia's on Wheels, and we're here to tell you why we didn't have our fifth wheel for 2 months.
Yep, we had warranty work done, and it took forever.
And ever.
And ever.
And ever.
And it's not even done.
Nope. So we're going to tell you some of the items we had turned in and whether or not they fixed them, because some things they decided, oh, it worked, and it doesn't still work. So we're going to start off with the fridge. What happened with the fridge?
Okay, so the fridge is, it was getting hot, and we were getting a lot of condensation. So the internet told me that it was the exhaust fans on the back of the fridge, and that there's a sensor that goes bad. I didn't want to get the sensor out, so I just jumped the wires. I told them that. They said, nope, there's nothing wrong. It's all in your head. However, the door was loose, which was another thing on our list. So they fixed that. So far, it's working, but it's also winter. So maybe it's fixed. Maybe it's not fixed. We're not sure.
We shall see when the summer hits and it's 110 degrees.
Yep.
So what about the battery?
Okay, so when we would unplug the fifth wheel from power, the battery would read 3/4 full, even though we hadn't drained the battery. It literally just got unplugged. So they said that was because the wire was loose on the battery meter. So they said they fixed that. To be honest, we haven't even checked that because we were so excited to have our fifth wheel back after 2 months that we haven't unplugged it. So maybe it's fixed. We'll see.
And the stove. The stove striker.
So the stove, 2 of the burners work just fine, the back 2. But the front burner doesn't light very often. So eventually it will light, but you have to keep turning the striker and keep turning the striker. They insisted that it worked 12 times in a row. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all in our head. So
I cook with it. It does not strike on the first time. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes it's the 10th time.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll see.
Not fixed.
And the toilet. We had the toilet.
Oh, yeah. So with the toilet, when you flush it, sometimes it works fine, but other times the water keeps running. And I don't know why. I've tried oiling it, and that didn't help. So I don't know what's wrong. But on occasion, it's filled up right up to the top. And so far, it hasn't overflowed, which is good. But they said, oh, we tried it. There's nothing wrong with the toilet. It's totally fine. Okay, well, not fixed.
It fills up with water. It's pretty nerve-wracking at night when you are blind and you can't see.
Yeah.
We hope that doesn't flood one day. We've gotten lucky. It's gone right up to the edge, but it has not overflowed.
Yes.
So we had this lovely slide right here that leaked. Did they fix that? Did they not fix that?
Okay, so this slide to our right, your left, is the living room slide. And it has the wiper seal across the top, which is supposed to be touching the very top of the slide. So it just kind of comes down like this. There was a big old gap, and anytime it was raining and windy, the rain would go up underneath it and straight into the living room. So they did lower that. However, there is a little tiny gap still, but we had some torrential downpours and hurricane winds all this week, and it was fine. So if it didn't leak then, I don't think it's going to leak. So fixed.
We like that because you'd be sitting in the recliner and all of a sudden water would just drip on your leg. And it was just in the middle right there where it leaked. It was really weird. So what about all the slides?
Okay, so there is these rubber seals called bulb seals that are all the way around each slide, and they seal when the slide goes in. It presses up against these seals, and that's how you don't have leaks when it's closed up. All of the tops on all 4 slides were rotted and split in half because just sitting out in the sun. I think it's because it was a previous model year, so it sat at Camping World for a year. Then we bought it, and it sat for another year, and I think they just rotted sitting in the sun all that time. I think the average person closes the slides and then leaves it that way for months and then goes camping, opens them up, and then closes them again. Well, we live in it, so they're open all the time. Anyways, they replaced all of them, and so they are all good to go. So that is fixed.
And the very last one, stress cracks on the front cap. Now this one comes with a fun story.
Yeah, so the front cap has a bunch of stress cracks on it, which I noticed one day when I was up on the roof. And I was all gloom and doom, and I thought, wow, this is awful. There's big cracks in our fiberglass, and they're going to have to replace the cap because it's going to be leaking everywhere, and it's going to leak into our closet. All my clothes are going to get wet. It's going to be rotting.
Voice of doom,
So this is awful,
you?
and I am not the voice of doom. She's sitting right there.
I am.
So, anyways, so we put that on the list. They got it approved. But when I talked to my dad about it and he looked at the cracks, he was like, well, it's not that bad. It's really just surface scratches. I was like, okay, or surface cracks, I should say. And he worked in a body shop for over 40 years. So, he has some expertise in this area. When we looked at what their estimate was to fix it, they were just going to sand down those spots, do a little patch job, and then paint the little spots. They weren't even going to paint the whole cap. So that's not what we want. We wanted them to repair or replace the cap. So to do all of that effort for some surface cracks that were then, those spots are probably going to, that paint is not going to last as long as the original paint. So pretty soon those spots were going to show up again, and then it was going to have the same old cracks, and then the paint's going to be dead. So after all of that, we're like, nah, we'll just not have them fix that. So, and when we had gotten the fifth wheel back, they hadn't even done that yet. We were going to have to bring it back to have that done. But why are we going to go through all of that when it took you 2.5 months to do all of these little piddly things, and then you hadn't even got to that?
And at the same time, they would never give us an answer of how long it would take. You'd email the guy, and he just would say things like, oh, well, there's people in front of you, or, oh, we're still getting parts, or, oh, it may be done. We might be able to start it late December or mid-January.
Yeah, he did not do a very good job of keeping us updated. And he was a really nice guy. I think my one complaint about the whole experience is the communication was awful. And I think what would have made a huge difference is instead of ignoring me when I asked, when are you going to work on it? Or saying, well, there's people ahead of you. If he would have said things like, well, I've ordered your parts, but they're just not in yet. I'll let you know when they come in. Or saying, you know what? Let's do the estimate, and then we'll order the parts. You take your fifth wheel back home, and when all the parts come in, then I'll let you know, and you can bring it back, and we'll start on it right then when I schedule you time. But what happened is, we brought it in, did the estimate, it sat there all this time. I don't know how many days they spent working on it, but I imagine it wasn't that many. And then it just sat outside, doing nothing. Well, all this time we could have been living in it, but, we didn't tell them that we lived in it, because it's kind of a no-no. So we just had to, suffer without our house for 2.5 months. And for what reason? And maybe the average person doesn't care if it's just a camping vehicle for them. But I would think if you're making monthly payments on something that you would like to have it in your possession. But that's just my feeling on it. So maybe the average person is different.
And you wouldn't get the same answer at the same time. When we went to go pick it up, he was like, oh yeah, it was just about to go in today to get it sanded or started.
Oh yeah, and that was awfully convenient that it's been sitting there for 2.5 months, but today's the day you were going to start painting it.
Yes, when you tell us that we can come pick it up.
Great, then start right now.
Very nice guy, again. But communication, if communication was there, it would have made the experience a little bit better or a little more worthwhile. But
yeah, I think I would have been even fine with the amount of time had I known the reason. But you didn't tell me until I got there 2.5 months later, oh, well, the parts hadn't come in, and that's why. Okay, well, why didn't you just say, hey, I ordered the parts, but they aren't coming in, so I don't know what to do. Then we could have talked about it, but it wasn't how that went down. So that's all I got on that.
Yes, so that is a story of why we didn't have our fifth wheel. If you've enjoyed this video, like it, give us that thumbs up. We like seeing that. We'll see you all in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.